It is time to check in with Chris Dimakos, our CJAD 800 legal contributor. And Chris, today I notice the story you want to talk about has to do with remote work, which is interesting because, 4 years ago, I guess beginning of the week or maybe the end of last week was the anniversary, of course, of the pandemic. We know how that changed so much on the employment scene. And now we're starting to see perhaps a bit of a shift, or are we?
Right. So a new report came out where they took a look at how remote work, hybrid work, salaries have gone since COVID, at the height of COVID. And just remember, when COVID took place, everyone was doing remote work. It was thrust upon all these companies. They were not prepared for it. Most were not prepared for it. They had no means of knowing how to monitor employees. There was just a mad rush to try and get things in order. So obviously, for many reasons, it really shifted a lot of the power into the employees' hands in terms of salaries. Those that were competent, those that were able to navigate through this new landscape ended up doing much better, ended up jumping ship, going for more salaries. But it looks like now the tides have turned. It looks like a lot of the companies have basically removed much of the remote work. They've downscaled their hybrid work, and for those that still keep it around, have gone a lot better at being more efficient at monitoring and basically supervising the work that's getting done remotely. So salaries have come down, turnover rates are going down as well, and a lot of the employees that they surveyed who are in remote work who feel underappreciated are not jumping ship. The numbers are like half of what they were during COVID. So basically, what this article is saying that companies have now gotten a lot of leverage back when it comes to employees and employee turnover rate, and most of them are turning away from remote work. And if you are an employee that is looking to have remote work, and that's like a fundamental thing for you, you're probably going to end up working for a little bit less than you were a few years back. And that's what this article says.
Ouch. Okay, so That's a shifting landscape. But you know what? When you're reading stuff like employers have muscled the leverage back, typically that's not a good sign. And if you wonder beyond just salaries, what else does it mean?
Well, there's a number of reasons for that. Now we're seeing also when it comes to like pay transparency, a lot of states in the U.S. and we have provinces here. I think there's 6 or 7 provinces here in Canada that have pay transparency laws, where if you post something, a job position, you have to give a salary range. And what's happening now is there's a lot more information out there, and employees are starting to say, hey, 1 second here, this is what I'm making. If I want to jump ship, I can already see what the competition is offering for my position. So maybe it's not so worth it that I leave. And on the other hand, with all this turnover, what people are starting to realize is, 1 second here, there are other things that I leave on the table when I leave my job that I've been at for 6 or 7 years, that I don't have those same types of protections with a new employment. So it's almost as if people are starting to come down from this type of heightened mad dash for more money. Companies were just hiring in a frenzy, trying to be able to get the work done during COVID, and now they're scaling back. We've seen it all year. Companies slashing jobs all over the place, just cutting costs because of what happened during COVID. So it looks like the dust has settled and everything's starting to get realigned again.
So, I know we talk about this because it keeps coming up, but in the wake of all this and in the wake of what I'm kind of trying to get to, in the wake of employers getting some of that leverage back, what does that mean when you leave? We talk about that a lot in terms of what you can get, what you can try to get. Does this give the power back to the employer as well, or does it not cross that line?
Right. So that's a great question. And a lot of it is circumstantial based on who you are as an employee. Many people, they often look to the internet to try and find information about, hey, okay, so I'm being let go from my company. What is that worth to me in terms of a package? The truth is, the most pertinent information, the most determining information is based on who you are, how old you are, how long you've been there, what industry you're in, what that company has been doing over the last couple of years. So a lot has to do with you, the employee, and not so much, just general statistics out there. But that being said, there's no question if unemployment's up, if you're in the tech sector and all of the tech industry has been slashing 10% of their workforce, that doesn't bode well for an employee that's trying to claim that their employer doesn't need to let them go and should be paying them the full amount of severance. So it's a little give and take, but again, it's a lot of it has to do with who you are as an employee, and what your role was, how hard is it to find another job, based on your age, based on what your expertise is, and based on the industry. It's much easier, for example, if you're a car salesman and you get let go, to find an alternate job than if you are, a manager of a professional sports franchise, let's say, it's a lot more harder to do that. So a lot of variables come into play, but there's no question that right now, I would say since COVID, the landscape has changed, and in terms of being hired, in terms of what it takes to get someone hired, how much money they're willing to pay. It's a lot different than it was, let's say, 2 or 3 years ago.
So one of the other things you note in the story is job recruiters, and you say they may have had their best years performance-wise over the last few years. Job recruiters, people looking to hire for companies, but that beginning to change perhaps as well. Why?
Right. So for two reasons. One, what a job recruiter does is basically they create turnover, right? So they solicit one employee who might not be so happy at their current job, and they find them another job making a little more money, and they make them jump ship. So when you start seeing periods of high turnover where employees are eager to jump ship to make more money, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 more for a rival company, well, that's where they thrive. And now what we're seeing is a lot of employees now are not so certain about that anymore. The turnover rates are dropping substantially, and people are less likely to jump ship now, given what the landscape is, especially when they're starting to see what's going on out there in terms of salaries. It's more available to everybody, and there's a lot more information with regards to how people are doing and who's letting who go. So sometimes employees start to question whether or not it's actually worth jumping ship at a place that they know, that they feel comfortable with. Hey, do I really want to leave this job here for an extra $2,000 when I have no idea what it's going to be like on the other side, and I might just end up getting let go after 3 months? So whenever you see turnover rates go down, job recruiters obviously have a much more difficult time making their living, because obviously turnover rate is at the heart of what they're doing.
Yeah, I should point out as well, and I think you mentioned this too, right? The idea that, when we talk about, on average, different sectors have different employment issues. So in tech right now, in some cases, it's become very, very bad. AI is causing a lot of jobs to be lost. You mentioned if you're a salesman, perhaps at a car dealership, that business seems to be, changing a little bit. So it seems to me you're kind of laying out the groundwork here where now, more than it's been in the last little while for sure, a lot of people are looking at their jobs and saying, hey, you know what? This is not that bad. I think I'll stick around because I see what the landscape out there is looking like.
Right. And the other thing that people are always worried about is unless you, and again, there's nothing that prevents you from doing so, and I highly recommend it. When someone is approaching you to jump ship and they say, hey, come with us, you'll make more money, we'll offer you a better position with all these different things, there's nothing wrong with getting a guaranteed amount of time that you're going to work there. So a fixed contract that says, hey, I will at least have 2 years at this company. You cannot let me go for serious reason for at least 2 years. That way I know that I'm not leaving there for 3 months. They get all my information and they just let me go. So that's something you always want to negotiate. If you're thinking about going to a rival company that's offering you more money and it looks like a much more competitive package, never forget to negotiate some guarantees for staying time on board with that company. And that if they're not willing to do that, then they weren't serious from the get-go. If they really want you, they have no problem putting down on the contract, hey, we're going to keep you at least for 2 years or for a year, whatever the amount of time is that you feel comfortable with, to ensure that you're not jumping ship just to be let go 3 months later.
There you go. Chris Dimakos with some good advice for you. Chris, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Aaron.